Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursaleen. Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathiran kathira. Fama ba'du, my dear brothers and sisters, we are in our class on living Islam. And I remind myself and you, the purpose of Islam is that it should be lived. Islam is the name of a practice, it is not the name of a theory, it is not the name of a philosophy, it is the name of a practice. Who is a good Muslim, or even who is a Muslim? Somebody who practices Islam. A Muslim is not somebody who knows about Islam. Today we live in a world where, of course, in terms of Islam being the subject of study, Islam is the subject of study for a lot of people. It is a subject of study for, most major universities have a department of Islamic studies, not because they are madrasas, but because Islam is an important enough thing to be taught in any university. You cannot have a major university which does not have a department of Islamic studies, because it would be a remark against a university to say that how can you ignore something which 20 to 25% of the world follows. 1 in every 5 people or 1 in every 4 people is a Muslim. It's a religion which spans nations and which spans all kinds of boundaries, which spans continents. And how is it that you as a university you have no time for people to study Islam? Now obviously the purpose of the departments of Islamic studies in most universities is not to teach Islam as a religion. They are not propagating Islam, they are not proselytizing Islam, they are not doing the work of Dawatul Islam. They are teaching about Islam as a philosophy. Really speaking, if you ask me, that's what they are teaching. They're teaching Islam as a philosophy. Now, what is the difference between that and learning about Islam from a sheikh or from a madrasa or from a Darul Uloom? The difference is that in the latter case, when you are learning from a Muslim teacher, or you are learning in a Muslim institution, which is Darul Uloom or Jamia, then Islam is not taught to you as a philosophy. Islam is not taught to you as this is a philosophy, that's a philosophy, that's a philosophy, and Islam is one of these philosophies. Islam is taught to you as this is the religion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala jalla jalaluhu chose for you. This is the religion about which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakum al-islam dina. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned Islam specifically by name, and Allah said that on this day, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I have completed my favor on you, I have completed my blessing on you, and I have completed your religion. Akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati. I have completed my religion, and I have completed my favor on you, and I have chosen for you Islam as your deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this very, very clearly in the Quran itself as far as Islam is concerned. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that on the day of judgment, anyone who comes with anything other than Islam, this will not be accepted from him, and that person will be among the losers. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this also very, very clearly. So my brothers and sisters, I remind myself and you that at least for us as Muslims, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ إِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. I was trying to think of the ayah. This is the ayat where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and that on that day, anyone who comes with other than Islam as his religion, this will not be accepted from him, and this person will be among the losers. We ask Allah to save us from that and for us not to be among the losers. My brothers and sisters, therefore, for us as Muslims, To study about Islam is not a matter of intellectual inclination. It's not a matter of saying, yeah, okay, it's an interesting thing. Let me do some reading about it. Why not? I have some free time. This is a matter of I won't even say life and death, because this is something which is even more important than life and death. Even more important, because life and death ends with death. Whatever it is, it finishes with death. Now today we are sitting in the middle of this COVID pandemic, so everything revolves around COVID pandemic. Think about this. Think about COVID itself. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of you from it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whoever has it, may Allah cure you and give you a complete and total cure, inshallah, and no recurrence, because that's another new thing that seems to be coming, that the antigens that are created are not of a permanent nature. It's not as if you will never be infected by it. It is possible that you may get it, you may get cured, and you may get reinfected after some time. May Allah protect us from all of this, inshallah. But think about this, which is that if you, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you from this. I'm saying if a person is infected, if a Muslim is infected by COVID, I'm not talking about Muslims who are walking around as if there's no COVID. I'm saying you have taken due precautions, you have maintained. Social distance is a peculiar and slightly ridiculous term. It should be personal distance or individual distance. What is the meaning of social distance? But anyway, we live in a mad world. So I'm using the term not because I think it is the best term, but because this is the usual term being used and it's understood. So you have been maintaining social distance, you have been washing your hands, you have been wearing a mask in all public places and on public transports and so on and so forth. You've been doing all of that. Still you get COVID. Now may Allah protect you, and say that this individual, he gets COVID and then he dies. So now he got this COVID, and whatever time between the infection and death, at least some of that time probably was very painful, because you were talking about respiratory failure, which is not easy. So this person died. Now think about that in the context as a Muslim. What actually happened to this person? This person got a disease which he had taken due precautions, so he is not to be blamed for that. And he died. But in the process, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave all his sins, and his death is counted and written for him as shahada fi sabilillah. As the person is counted as a martyr before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this person, inshallah al-musta'an, goes straight into Jannah. Now obviously you don't ask Allah for disease, but I'm saying that looking at this as a Muslim, and this is where the whole issue is, that a Muslim must necessarily look at life differently from a non-Muslim. I always give this example to say that if two people are, I used to have this experience with my father very, very often, because he was a physician and a surgeon, and he was one of the most brilliant clinical diagnosticians that I have ever seen in my life. And that was, I'm not just praising my father, that was by and large the situation with that generation of doctors, because they didn't have access to technology. I mean, the greatest technology that was available for a lot of my father's life, only towards the end other things came, but for literally decades of his medical practice, the biggest technological thing that was available to him was the X-ray. There was nothing else. My father himself had 3 heart attacks before he was 40 or 45. Before he was 45, he had 3 heart attacks, and there was no treatment for heart attack. Other than saying, don't eat fatty foods, even that was not particularly well known. So people just said, take rest, lot of rest. Don't drive your car, take a lot of rest. My father used to smoke at that time, so they told him give up smoking, and which he did. The point I'm saying is that when he and I would be sitting, and his hobby, this is where people who are passionate about their professions and about their work, his hobby was he would diagnose people as they are walking past. So we would be sitting somewhere, sometimes in a public place, maybe a restaurant, maybe in the airport or somewhere, sometimes at home, people would come, we would have some guests, and my father would say, he would look at a person from a distance, and he would say, this person is going towards congestive heart failure. He said, this person has got water retention. He said, this person, that is his kidney malfunction. This person is looking at arthritis. This person seems to have some thyroid issues. This person has some, he's getting in for some respiratory issues. He seems to be a chain smoker. Now, my father was not he didn't have sort of X-ray vision, or he didn't have double sight. He was exercising, and he was looking with his knowledge, not just with his eyes. And that's why I have said this many times before. We look with our eyes, but we see with our knowledge. We look with our eyes, but we see with our knowledge. So anytime that you are with a person who is an expert in a particular field, a particular area, I get a lot of kicks from being with experts, because it opens my eyes so much to what people are seeing. Because then the experience you have is that the same thing which you are seeing with your eyes, this expert is also looking, the picture of it is exactly the same. The picture is the same. But the meaning he draws from that picture is far more enhanced than you can draw, because that is not your area of expertise. Right? It's not your area of expertise. I mean, I've been, for example, with very fine architects to some of the most iconic buildings in the world. For example, take the Haram Sharif in Mecca. I mean, I stand outside there and look at, say, wow, phenomenal, fabulous, what a magnificent masjid. Whereas my architect friend will tell me, we see how the alignment of the minars is, that even when it goes to the top, it doesn't look like they're coming inwards. It's like this way. And see how the writing is written, where even though you're looking at something which is high up, it seems to be the same size as what is lower down, and so on and so on. Now, here is an architect looking at the building of the Haram Sharif, and that is me looking at the building. Both of us at one level, our perception is the same, which is we are admiring a very beautiful and magnificent structure. But after that, that architect's perception takes him to a much higher level, because he is able to see details in that building which I am blind to, even though we are looking at exactly the same thing, and there is nothing wrong with his eyes, nothing wrong with my eyes. He doesn't have some kind of third sight or whatnot. Same thing. But what he has, which I don't have, is knowledge of architecture. So now this is the thing that's the reason I say that we see with our eyes, but we look with our eyes, but we see with our knowledge. Now, the reason I gave you all these examples is to bring us to the issue of Islam, to say that when a non-Muslim looks at a situation and a Muslim looks at a situation, there must be, by definition, there must be a difference in which the two view the same situation. If that difference is not there, then I have to question my Islam. If an architect and I are looking at the same building, and both of us are asked to write a description of what did you see, and if there is no difference between what I write and what the architect writes, then that architect must question his knowledge of architecture. Because how is it that you are an architect and you are not able to see things in the structure of that building and in the design of that building which an ordinary layperson cannot see? Right? You are also not able to see them. Now, then where is your architecture? Where is your knowledge of architecture? So the same thing we have to apply to ourselves and say that if I am a Muslim, then how come I am unable to see things, and when I'm looking at life, when I'm looking at in this case not individual buildings or something, I'm looking at life itself, I'm looking at what happens to me, I'm looking at what is happening around the world, and there is no difference in the way that I'm perceiving that, there's no difference in my reaction to that from the reaction of a person who's not a Muslim. So this Islam of mine, what value has it added to me? We need to seriously ask ourselves this question. What value is my Islam adding to me? If my Iman cannot keep me from eating something which is doubtful, if it cannot protect me from what is haram in this world, how will it protect me from the fire of Jahannam on the Day of Judgment? If my iman cannot protect me from earning from a source which I know to be haram, I still earn, how is this iman going to protect me from the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who I have accepted as my enemy? Na'udhu billah. Islam must add value, and the value that Islam adds is because of how we perceive life, how we look at life. And we do that not with these eyes, but with the eyes of the heart, which is the eyes of knowledge of Islam. And that is the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that La ta'amal absar walakin ta'amal qulubul lati fis sudur. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said these people, and he's talking about people who do not have Islam, he said they are not blind. They are not blind because their eyes cannot see. He said they are blind because their hearts cannot see. Their hearts are blind, meaning there is no understanding of what they are seeing. They are seeing something and they have no understanding of that. They don't really know what is going on. And that is the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that these people are blind. I remind myself and you that is the reason why there is so much of focus in Islam on action, on actual action, not so much on just memorizing and this and that. As I keep saying all the time, I'm not discounting memorizing of the Quran. I'm not discounting tajweed of the Quran and so on. And if somebody thinks I'm doing that, then they are mistaken. The point is that I'm saying that is not the purpose of the nuzul of the Quran. The purpose of the nuzul of the Quran is for it to be practiced in our lives. Now take this hadith, for example, in Sahih Muslim and also in the Arba'in Nawawiyah, Imam Nawawi's 40 hadith. This hadith is on the authority of Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu, who said that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do not envy one another. Do not envy one another. Meaning don't be jealous of one another. Don't look at somebody and wish for something bad to happen to them. Because you don't like them, you don't like to see them happy, you don't like to see them successful, you don't like to see them wealthy and influential. He said, do not envy one another, do not inflate prices for one another, do not hate one another, and do not turn away from one another, and do not undercut one another in trade, but rather be ibadallah, be the slaves of Allah, and be brothers amongst yourselves. Right? This is the hadith of narrated by Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu. And then he said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam continued, he said, a Muslim is the brother of a Muslim. And then he gave the qualities or features of that. He said he does not oppress him, nor does he fail him, meaning if his brother is in need, he doesn't walk away, nor does he lie to him, nor does he hold him in contempt. A Muslim is the brother of a Muslim. He does not oppress him, nor does he fail him, nor does he lie to him, and nor does he hold him in contempt. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Taqwa is right here. And he pointed to his blessed chest 3 times. Taqwa is right here. Taqwa is right here. Taqwa is right here. And then he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is evil enough for a man to hold his brother Muslim in contempt. The whole of a Muslim, meaning his body, his dignity, his honor, his property, his family, everything. The whole of a Muslim is inviolable for another Muslim. His blood, his property, and his honor. And this is in Sahih Muslim and also in the Arba'in an-Nawawiyah. I'm going to repeat this beautiful hadith and then we'll try to see how much of this we can cover in this session. On the authority of Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu, who said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do not envy one another, and do not inflate prices for one another, and do not hate one another, and do not turn away from one another, and do not undercut one another in trade, but rather be slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala jalla jalaluhu, and brothers amongst yourselves. A Muslim is the brother of a Muslim. He does not oppress him, nor does he fail him, nor does he lie to him, nor does he hold him in contempt. Taqwa, and he pointed to his blessed chest, taqwa is right here. Taqwa is right here. Taqwa is right here. He said this 3 times. It is evil enough for a man to hold his brother Muslim in contempt. The whole of a Muslim is inviolable for another Muslim, his blood, his property, and his honor. Sahih Muslim and Arba'in an-Nawawiyah. My brothers and sisters, I remind myself, when you see how beautiful this hadith is. First and foremost, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is focusing on matters of action, of relationships between Muslims, of relationships between brothers. And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is telling us what we need to do to build that relationship. You know, the greatest, anytime I use this term greatest with regard to the mercy and blessings of Allah, or with regard to the actions of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, immediately I think of myself and say, well, you know, there's something else which is greater. Wallah alam, alhamdulillah. But in this context, the greatest, I have to use the term miracle, mu'jiza, because in today's world it really looks like a miracle. It doesn't even look like a conscious action which resulted in some result. It looks like a miracle. The greatest miracle is the formation of the ummah, the Muslim brotherhood of faith. Right? Alhamdulillah, the kalam of Allah is the greatest miracle, and so on. I'm not going into that. I'm just saying that here is a miracle, that here is a mu'jiza, and I'm using the term mu'jiza because it looks like it is restricted only to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That is not how it was intended to be. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam showed us this example for us to emulate and follow in our lives. But it seems to me like the greatest of his miracles is that he was able to bring together a group of people who were completely diverse, people from different nationalities, people from different races, people from huge disparities in economic background, people from huge disparities in social levels. Major. I mean, today we think with rich and poor. You cannot even imagine the difference between say Bilal bin Rabah radiallahu anhu, when he was a slave, a black African Abyssinian slave, who is the physical property of somebody, and his owner at that time was the man called Umayyah bin Khalaf. The difference between Umayyah bin Khalaf and Bilal radiallahu anhu, who was his, not even actualized in our minds today, because we don't have slaves, and alhamdulillah that we do not have slaves. We don't know, we were never slaves ourselves, so we do not know what it means to be a slave. Believe me, it's nothing like working for somebody. A slave is a very, very different thing, and subhanAllah, it is absolutely the worst possible thing, and it is something that must be completely and totally condemned out of hand. Now, we cannot even conceive, but yet here was Bilal bin Rabah radiallahu anhu, who in the Islamic context became the equal. Umayyah bin Khalaf, of course, was killed in Badr, but Bilal bin Rabah became equal to Abu Sufyan. Now, Abu Sufyan bin Harb was the chief of the Banu Umayyah of Quraysh. Right? In that hierarchy, there was nobody bigger than Abu Sufyan. But when he became Muslim, Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu, he became the equal of Bilal bin Rabah, and in some cases he became even better than Bilal bin Rabah radiallahu anhu became even better than Abu Sufyan. Now, not my opinion. In the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu and Suhail bin Amr radiallahu anhu, these two came to meet Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. Now, they were waiting to meet him when Bilal bin Rabah radiallahu anhu came, And Sayyidina Umar immediately called Bilal bin Rabah to talk to him, even though Abu Sufyan and Suhail bin Amr had been waiting. So Abu Sufyan said, these things are difficult to get rid of. But anyway, Abu Sufyan, radiallahu anhu, he said to Suhail bin Amr, he said, what times have come where people like us have to wait while people like this are given immediate access. Suhail bin Amr said, don't say that. He said, do not say that. You know what you were doing, and I know what I was doing when this man brought Iman and he was standing with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He said, we are nowhere close to him. Now, this is fact, this is historical fact. The point I'm making here is that how did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam create this ummah? Differences, as I told you, huge. Salman Farsi is a Persian. He's a man from Persia. Now the Arabs, their chauvinism, their arrogance on the basis of nasal, on the basis of their lineage, on the basis of their language, was proverbial. They were so arrogant with their language that they called anyone who could not speak Arabic, they used to call that person ummi. They used to say this person he is dumb, he's like an animal. They did not recognize any language other than Arabic as even being a language. Yet, Salman al-Farsi radiallahu anhu, when he became Muslim, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Salman is from my family, radiallahu anhu. And not only was Salman Farsi a Persian, but Salman Farsi also was an ex-slave. So in a society which had slavery, in a society which had slave owners and slaves, somebody who was a slave or used to be a slave obviously was looked down upon because this was the social norm. Yet, when they became Muslims, they were like brothers. They were like brothers. Now, how did that happen? And that is where we come to this hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is teaching us that which keeps hearts together, that which generates love, that which generates loyalty, that which generates a sense of belonging, which is the greatest adhesive which keeps the brotherhood together. And what is that? To take responsibility for the welfare of your brother. To actively take responsibility for the welfare of your brother. I'm not talking about only, just sort of paying lip service or saying, oh, assalamu alaikum, my brother. No. I'm saying consciously look out for that brother. Consciously do something where you ensure that that brother does not come to any harm because of something you did or you failed to do. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is starting from where it begins, and he said, do not envy one another. The whole thing begins from that. I look at my brother and something pricks me. Oh, I go, wow, fantastic. Oh man, look at his car. Huh? Why does he have to drive this car? Who is he trying to show off to? Look at his house. Huh? Look at this, look at that. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, envy is permitted only in two things. Envy is haram. Jealousy and envy is completely and totally haram. We have the ayat of Surah Al-Hujurat also, which talk about something which happens as a result of jealousy and envy, which is riba, which is backbiting. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, envy is permissible only in two cases. One, you envy somebody because of the fact that they have more religious knowledge than you do and they practice it. And secondly, you envy somebody because they have wealth and they spend it in the path of Allah. You're not envying them for the wealth, you are envying them for spending that wealth in the path of Allah. And by envy, you don't, I'm saying the difference is that you're not saying, I hope he gets destroyed, I hope his wealth is lost. No. Envy meaning, I wish I had that and I wish I could do what he is doing, I wish I could do more than what he's doing. So first problem, where it all begins is envy. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, who is a brother? And what is the hukum of the Nabi? This is what he's saying. Do this, don't do that. Hukum of the Nabi, which is fard on us to obey. He says, do not envy one another. And then he said, do not inflate prices for one another. What does it mean? You might say, well, I'm not a trader. I'm not selling anything. No. Inflating prices meaning don't try to benefit at the expense of that brother. Whatever the definition of that benefit is in your context. It may be inflating prices, it may be something else, but don't benefit at the expense or don't try to benefit at the expense of your brother. And then he said, do not hate one another. Because the fallout of envy is hatred. Envy is where it starts, hatred is where it gets to. And then the outcome of that, we cut relations. He said, do not turn away from one another. Do not turn away from one another. Imagine how many people we don't talk to and we have broken relationships with because of some imagined, egoistical thing. Now that person said this, didn't say that, whatnot. My brothers and sisters, really seriously, we need to ask ourselves, what path are we treading? Where are we going? What are we doing with ourselves? And then he said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, do not undercut one another in trade. So here, one is inflating prices between this trader and the customer. The other one is inflating, is undercutting, which is lowering prices between two traders. So you are offering something. Today, may Allah protect us, we have dawah organizations doing this, undercutting one another in order to capture the market. Allah is witness, I know specific incidents where this has happened, and it was reported to me, and all I could say was, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. I wish the people who run those dawah organizations and who claim to be Sheikh Fulan bin Fulan, and they do these things, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, astaghfirullah al-azim, you will answer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. You want to undercut another dawah organization because you want to, within quotes, capture the market. What is the difference between you and Coca-Cola and Pepsi? Astaghfirullah al-azim. And you think this is something that is going to get you Jannah? You think this is something that is going to give, that is going to spread hidayah around the world? Please understand this. Don't destroy yourself. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is saying this, and I am going to stop here. We'll look at the rest of the hadith in the next class. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, be slaves of Allah and be brothers amongst yourselves. Now what is the meaning of saying be slaves of Allah? Meaning obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is the obedience to Allah? Is to be brothers to one another. Because this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to do. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that you are brothers to one another. And innamal muslimuna ikhwatun, and Allah said the Muslims are brothers to one another. Wa aslihu bayna akhawaykum, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said conciliate between each other. If there is a dispute, if there is some kind of misunderstanding, if there is a conflict, don't fan the flames. Don't fan the flames. There are people today, this is part of our social interaction. You go and listen to one story and then you go and tell the other person, you know what so-and-so was saying about you? La hawla quwwata. And then you sit there and watch the fun. This is your entertainment. By fanning the flames and getting two people even more embroiled, you sit there and you watch the fun. Now, brothers and sisters, please be very careful, because the day will come when we will be held accountable for that. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, do not envy, do not hate, Do not turn away. Do not inflate prices. Do not undercut. All matters to do with akhlaq. All matters to do with mu'amilat. All matters to do with manners, and all matters to do with our dealings with one another. And please understand that just because in this hadith Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has mentioned 4 or 5 things, that it is restricted only to those 4 or 5 things. No, it's not. Those 4 or 5 things are salutary, they are the signals, they are the symbols of everything which they represent. So here Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is saying, do not harm your brother, look out for your brother, whether it is in a commercial context, whether it is in a domestic context, whether it is in a social context, whether it is in a political context, whatever the context might be, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is saying is look out for your brother, not just even tacit or passive support, but active support. Do only that which benefits your brother, and do not do anything which does not benefit your brother. And if you see something happening there which can harm him, then you come in between and you stop that and you prevent that harm from happening to your brother. And as I said, why all this? Because this is the adhesive. This is the glue. This is what keeps the ummah together. This is what creates the ummah, and this is what keeps the ummah together as one. My brothers and sisters, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Jalla Jalaluhu to enable us to relearn Islam. Because today, wallahi, by Allah, this is what is destroying us. Little issues which have nothing to do with what is happening in the world involve us in arguments which only result in one thing, which is straining of relationships between each other. Nothing on the ground changes. Somebody asked me, please comment on the conversion of Hagia Sophia into a mosque. What do you think? So I asked him, I told him, is this something that affects your akhirah? Is it something that is going to give you Jannah or Jahannam? If Hagia Sophia was converted into a mosque, does it mean that you will go to Jannah? If Hagia Sophia had not been converted into a mosque and remained a museum, or if it was converted into a church, does it mean that you would have gone into Jahannam? Your opinion or my opinion, and if there are two different opinions, we know where it goes. It goes into argument and whatnot, and then you will not like what I say and I will not like what you say, and our relationship as friends, as brothers will get strained. Maybe it will get broken. Maybe I start thinking negatively about you, and maybe you start thinking negatively about me. All of this will happen. But ground reality, the conversion of Hagia Sophia into a mosque, I said, will that change? No. What is done is done. Whether you like it or you don't like it, or whether I like it or I don't like it, it makes zero difference to the ground reality. So what have we achieved? Apart from destroying our brotherhood, apart from destroying our own akhirah, apart from, may Allah protect us, if Allah does not protect us, we'll also start backbiting, we'll also start telling each other, oh, you know what, Sheikh Yawar, he's an apologist. You know, he has got no iman, he has lost his iman. Yeah? This is his opinion, and so on and so on. Now tell me, what is the benefit of this? But think about this. This is what we as Muslims do, and we do it constantly. Hagia Sophia is only one. This is the latest one, which is keeping the pot boiling. But our pot continues to boil, and it's only got water in it. The water boils and boils and boils and produces steam, and there's nothing to eat, nothing to drink. The pot is a worthless pot. And that is the pot of our emotions. The world does things which keep our pot boiling, and there is no benefit at the end of that, zero benefit. But we have no sense, we don't understand. We do not understand. My brothers and sisters, really seriously ask yourself this question. You know, I want to end with this. Somebody sent me this very nice little picture of a football match, and it was a picture of the stand of the fans, people screaming and wow, wow, wow. And just now the the World Cup has been announced, and it's the playing schedule is announced, and of course a lot of excitement all over the world. Wow, we are going to be watching World Cup. You and I know, billions and billions of dollars goes into that sport. Huge emotion, huge energy, millions of and huge emotion, huge energy, billions of dollars being spent. So somebody sent me this picture and said, if only this much of emotion and this much of passion was spent on something worthwhile. Seriously, ask yourself this question. There are Muslims who are in China, the Uyghur Muslims are being literally, they are oppressed in a way that is unimaginable. Where is the passion for that? Where is the backing and forthing like we are having, but that is happening for Hagia Sophia? Is it happening for that? What about the Rohingya Muslims? What about the Syrian and the Iraqi refugees? What about the poverty that you see and I see in our countries? Forget Muslims, anybody. Have you not seen people taking food out of garbage bins and competing for food with stray dogs? Have you not seen? I have seen them. I'm sure you've seen them as well. Where is the passion for that? Where is the passion? Today people are dying of COVID, and in places like India, the private hospitals they're getting booming business by inflating prices and so on and so forth. Where is the passion to fight against that? I can make you a long list of things, every single one of which requires passion. It requires emotional commitment, it requires time, it requires investment. We have no time for that. We have time for conversion of Hagia Sophia or some other similar completely useless argument, completely useless issue on which people like you and me will talk, and that has absolutely zero relevance and value to the realities on the ground. So when this person asked me, aren't you going to give an opinion? I said, yes, I will. Let the people who are involved, let them ask me, I will give them my opinion. You are not one of them. My brothers and sisters, I advise you and myself, let us stop wasting time. This life is short. Don't waste time. Enough is enough. Focus on what benefits you in the akhirah, because that will automatically benefit you and me also in this dunya. Leave everything else aside. We do not have time for that. Leave it aside. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with you and never to be displeased. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you from sources that you cannot imagine. I ask Allah to protect you from all evil that you know and that which you do not know. I ask Allah to keep you in a state of Iman and to strengthen that and to take you in a state of Iman and to be pleased with you on the day when you meet Him. وصلى الله على نبي الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين والحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.